When you listen to advice from Steve Harvey, one thing becomes clear. A man who is serious about a woman is not just looking at her appearance, he's studying her standards. And the truth is, many women don't even realize they are being tested in this way. It's not always loud or obvious. It's subtle. It's in the way he shows up late to see how you respond. It's in the way he cancels plans last minute to see if you'll accept it. It's in the way he gives you less than you deserve just to see if you'll still stay. And every time you respond, you are telling him exactly how to treat you moving forward. A man doesn't wake up one day and decide your value. He learns it through your behavior. If you entertain inconsistency, you teach him that inconsistency is acceptable. If you laugh off disrespect, you teach him that disrespect is not a deal breaker. If you make excuses for his lack of effort, you teach him that effort is optional. This is what it means when we say a man tests your standards. He is not always consciously plotting against you, but he is always observing. He is paying attention to what you allow, what you correct, and what you walk away from. See, a high-value woman understands something powerful. Attention is not the same as intention. Just because a man is calling you, texting you, or spending time with you does not mean he values you. The real question is, how does he treat you during those moments? Does he respect your time? Does he speak to you with care? Does he show consistency? Because a man who truly wants you will rise to meet your standards, but only if those standards are clear and firm. A lot of women lower their standards without even realizing it because they are afraid of losing the man. They think, if I say something, he might leave. But what they don't understand is this. If a man leaves because you ask for respect, he was never meant to stay. When you lower your standards to keep someone, you don't keep them, you lose yourself. And once a man sees that you are willing to sacrifice your self-respect for his presence, he stops valuing you the way you deserve. Standards are not about being difficult or demanding. They are about knowing your worth and refusing to accept anything less. It's about saying, I deserve consistency, I deserve honesty, I deserve effort. And not just saying it with words, but proving it with your actions. Because a man is not listening to what you say as much as he is watching what you do. You can tell him you expect respect all day long, but if you stay when he disrespects you, your actions will always speak louder. Think about it like this. When a man first meets you, he doesn't know your limits. He doesn't know what you will tolerate. So he tests. Maybe he starts small. Maybe he takes a little longer to reply. Maybe he shows up a little late. Maybe he makes a joke that crosses the line just a bit. And in those moments, he is watching closely, not necessarily to hurt you, but to understand you, to figure out where the boundaries are. And if there are no boundaries, he keeps going. This is why the beginning is so important. The way you allow a man to treat you in the early stages often sets the tone for the entire relationship. If you accept bare minimum in the beginning, it becomes the standard. And later, when you try to raise that standard, it feels like a problem to him because you've already shown him something different. That's why you have to start strong. Not by being harsh or cold, but by being clear and consistent about what you will and will not accept. A woman with standards doesn't chase validation. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't over-explain her worth. She simply embodies it. When something doesn't align with her values, she addresses it or she walks away. And that kind of energy is powerful because it forces a man to make a choice. He either steps up or he steps out. There is no room for confusion. And here's something important to understand. The right man will not be intimidated by your standards. He will respect them. In fact, he will be drawn to them. Because a man who is serious about building something meaningful is not looking for easy. He is looking for real. He is looking for a woman who knows who she is, who respects herself, and who will hold him accountable to be his best. So when a man tests your standards, it's not something to fear. It's an opportunity for you to show him exactly who you are, an opportunity for you to set the tone, an opportunity for you to decide whether he is worthy of your time, your energy, and your presence. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about him choosing you. It's about you choosing him. And the moment you truly understand your value, everything changes. You stop accepting things that don't feel right. You stop making excuses for behavior that doesn't align with your standards. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. And instead, you stand firm in who you are, knowing that the right person will meet you there. Because a man will always test your standards, but it's up to you to decide what those standards are. And once you do, the right man won't try to break them, he'll rise to meet them. When you really understand the way men think, like the insights often shared by Steve Harvey, you start to realize that emotional control is one of the biggest things a man observes in a woman he's serious about. It's not always something he says out loud, but he is always watching how you respond when things don't go perfectly. Because in his mind, he's asking himself one question: is she peace or is she pressure? And the answer to that question often determines how far he's willing to go with you. A man who wants something real is not just looking for attraction, he's looking for stability. He's thinking long term, even if he doesn't admit it right away. He's imagining what life would feel like. With you in difficult moments, not when everything is perfect, but when things go wrong, when plans fall apart, when misunderstandings happen, when stress enters the picture. And the only way he can figure that out is by watching how you react in small situations first. That's where the testing begins. It might look like something simple. Maybe he doesn't text back as quickly as you expected. Maybe he forgets to call one night. Maybe he says something that slightly annoys you. These are not always major issues, but to him, they are opportunities to observe. He's not just focused on what happened, he's focused on how you handle it. Do you immediately assume the worst? Do you react with anger, frustration, or emotional outbursts? Or do you pause, think, and respond with calmness and clarity? Emotional control is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about how you manage your emotions in a way that reflects strength instead of chaos. How? Because the truth is, everyone has emotions. Everyone gets upset, frustrated, or hurt at times. But what separates a woman who stands out is her ability to stay grounded even when she feels those emotions. She doesn't let temporary feelings dictate permanent reactions. A man pays attention to that because he knows relationships are not always easy. There will be disagreements. There will be challenges. And if he sees that you react to every small issue with intensity, it raises a red flag in his mind. Not because he doesn't care about your feelings, but because he's thinking about the long-term impact. He's thinking, if this is how she reacts now, what will it be like when things get really tough? And that thought alone can make him step back. On the other hand, when you show emotional control, it creates a completely different impression. When something bothers you and you address it calmly, instead of exploding, it shows maturity. When you communicate your feelings clearly instead of reacting impulsively, it shows confidence. When you don't jump to conclusions or create unnecessary drama, it shows security within yourself. And all of those qualities are deeply attractive to a man who is looking for something meaningful. There's a certain kind of power in being calm. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's undeniable. When you don't overreact, you force a man to respect you in a different way because he realizes he can't control you through confusion or inconsistency. He realizes you are grounded, and that makes you stand out in a world where emotional instability is common. Many women think that showing strong emotions will make a man understand how much they care, but often it has the opposite effect. When emotions are expressed without control, it can feel overwhelming. It can create distance instead of connection. That's why emotional intelligence is so important. It's not about feeling less, it's about expressing those feelings in a way that builds. Understanding instead of pushing someone away. And here's something most people don't talk about. Emotional control also shows self-respect. When you don't allow someone's actions to completely throw you off balance, it shows that your happiness is not dependent on them. It shows that you have control over your own state of mind. And that is incredibly powerful because it shifts the dynamic. Instead of chasing reassurance, you become the one who sets the emotional tone. A man who is testing you in this way is trying to figure out if you bring peace into his life or if you bring unnecessary stress. It's not about perfection. He's not expecting you to never get upset. What he's looking for is consistency in how you handle situations. He wants to see that you can communicate without attacking, that you can express without exploding, that you can address issues without turning them into something bigger than they need to be. When you respond with emotional control, it does something interesting. It often makes him reflect on his own behavior. When you don't match negative energy with negative energy, it forces him to step up. It creates a space where real communication can happen. But when you react with intensity to every situation, it often escalates things and creates a cycle that is hard to break. This doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect or ignore your feelings. Emotional control is not about being silent or passive. It's about choosing how you respond instead of reacting automatically. It's about knowing when to speak, how to speak, and when to walk away if necessary. Because sometimes the strongest response is not an argument, it's distance. At the end of the day, a man is always observing how you handle yourself emotionally, especially if he sees potential in you. He wants to know if you are someone he can build with, someone he can trust in both good times and challenging moments. And the way you respond to everyday situations gives him that answer more clearly than anything you could ever say. When you master emotional control, you don't just pass his test, you elevate yourself. You become someone who is not easily shaken, not easily manipulated, and not easily misunderstood. And that kind of presence naturally commands respect, attention, and deeper interest from the right kind of man. When you really begin to understand relationship dynamics the way people like Steve Harvey often explain them, you realize that independence is one of the most powerful qualities a woman can have. And not just independence in a surface level way, but real deep independence, the kind that shows in how you think, how you live, and how you carry yourself. Because one of the biggest things a man will quietly test is whether you are choosing him or whether you need him. There's a major difference between those two, and men feel it almost immediately. When a woman needs a man, her behavior starts to shift without her even noticing. She begins to prioritize him over everything else in her life too quickly. She adjusts her schedule, her goals, even her personality just to keep his attention. She becomes overly available, overly accommodating, and overly concerned about his approval. And while she may think this is showing love or interest, what it actually does is remove the challenge and the mystery that often fuels a man's deeper attraction. A man who is serious about a woman is not looking to feel like her entire world. That might sound surprising, but it's the truth. He wants to feel valued, yes, but not responsible for your happiness. Because when your happiness depends entirely on him, it creates pressure. It creates an unspoken expectation that he has to constantly meet your emotional needs in order to keep you stable. And over time, that pressure can push him away rather than pull him closer. This is why independence becomes so important. When you have your own life, your own purpose, your own passions, it changes the entire dynamic. You are no longer approaching the relationship from a place of lack. You are not looking for someone to complete you. You are inviting someone to complement you. And that energy is completely different. It's attractive because it feels balanced. It feels healthy. It feels real. A man will test this in subtle ways. He might pay attention to how quickly you drop everything for him. He might notice whether you cancel your own plans just to be available. He might observe how you react when he's not around. Do you seem lost without him, or do you continue living your life with confidence and purpose? These are the things that tell him whether you are grounded in yourself or dependent on him. When a woman is independent, she doesn't rush. She doesn't feel the need to force a connection or speed up the process. She allows things to develop naturally because she knows her life is already full. She's not sitting around waiting for a text or a call to define her day. She's building, growing, and evolving on her own. And that naturally creates a sense of intrigue because a man realizes he has to earn a place in your world, not just walk into it effortlessly. Independence also protects your identity. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is losing themselves in the process. They become so focused on the other person that they forget who they were before the relationship started. Their hobbies fade, their friendships weaken, their personal goals get pushed aside, and eventually they wake up feeling disconnected from themselves. A man notices when this happens, and while he may not say it directly, it often changes how he sees you. But when you maintain your independence, you keep your sense of self intact. You remain connected to the things that make you happy outside of the relationship. You continue to grow as an individual, not just as someone's partner. And that not only keeps the relationship healthier, it keeps the attraction alive. Because a man is drawn to a woman who has depth, who has purpose, who has a life that exists beyond him. There's also a level of respect that comes with independence. When you don't rely on a man for your identity or your happiness, it sends a clear message. You are here by choice, not by necessity. And that makes your presence more valuable, because now he knows that if you are with him, it's because you genuinely want to be, not because you feel like you have no other option. Independence doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're distant or unavailable. It means you are balanced. It means you can give love without losing yourself. It means you can be present without being dependent. And that balance is what creates a strong foundation for something real. A man who is testing your independence is trying to understand if you are someone who can stand on your own. He's trying to see if you have the strength to walk away if necessary, or if you will hold on no matter what. Because the reality is, when someone knows you will stay regardless of how they treat you, it lowers the incentive for them to grow. But when they know you value yourself enough to leave if things are not right, it creates a different level of accountability. When you are independent, you don't tolerate behavior that doesn't align with your values. Not because you're trying to prove a point, but because you genuinely know your worth. You are not afraid of being alone because you have already built a life that fulfills you. And that confidence shows in everything you do. It shows in how you speak, how you move, and how you respond to situations. And here's where it all comes together. Independence doesn't push the right man away, it pulls him closer. Because a man who is ready for something meaningful is not looking for someone to carry. He's looking for someone to build with. He's looking for a partner, not a responsibility. And when he sees that you are strong, self-sufficient, and secure in who you are, it gives him confidence in the connection. So when a man tests your independence, it's not something to be intimidated by. It's an opportunity to show that you are complete on your own, that you are not searching for someone to define you, but someone to share your life with. And when you operate from that place, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop overthinking, and you start attracting the kind of connection that is built on mutual respect, genuine desire, and real balance. When you begin to understand relationship dynamics through the lens of someone like Steve Harvey, you realize that loyalty and consistency are not just qualities a man hopes for, they are things he actively looks for and quietly tests over time. Not with big dramatic moments, but through patterns, through repetition, through watching whether who you say you are actually matches how you show up day after day. A man who is serious about you is always paying attention to alignment. Not perfection, not flawless behavior, but alignment. He listens to what you say and then he watches what you do. If you say you value honesty, does your behavior reflect that? If you say you care about him, does your effort stay consistent or does it come and go depending on your mood? These are the small but powerful details that build his perception of you over time. Consistency is one of the most underrated forms of attraction. Anyone can be impressive for a moment. Anyone can say the right words at the right time. Anyone can show up strong in the beginning when everything is new and exciting. But not everyone can maintain that energy. Not everyone can be steady. And a man who is thinking beyond the surface knows that long-term connection is built on what is repeated, not what is promised. That's why he watches patterns. He notices how you communicate over time. Are you warm one day and distant the next without explanation? Are you present when it's convenient but unavailable when it requires effort? Or are you stable in how you show up, clear in your communication, and dependable in your actions? Because stability creates trust, and trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. Loyalty, on the other hand, goes deeper than just being faithful. It's about integrity. It's about being real, even when it's not easy. It's about standing firm in your intentions and not shifting based on external influences. A man wants to know if you are solid, if you are someone he can rely on, not just when things are going well, but when things are uncertain. He might test this in subtle ways. He might open up about something personal and watch how you handle it. Do you respect his vulnerability? or do you use it against him later? He might observe how you speak about others, especially people who are not present, because how you talk about others often reflects how you might talk about him when he's not around. He might even pay attention to how you respond to attention from other men, not because he wants to control you, but because he's trying to understand your boundaries and your sense of commitment. Loyalty is revealed in these quiet moments. It's not always about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's about the everyday decisions that show where your priorities lie. It's about choosing honesty when it would be easier to hide something. It's about being consistent even when your emotions fluctuate. Because feelings can change, but character is what remains steady. And here's the truth. Inconsistency creates doubt faster than almost anything else. When your behavior is unpredictable, it forces a man to question where he stands. One day he feels secure, the next day he feels uncertain. That emotional instability makes it difficult for him to invest fully because he doesn't know what version of you he's going to get. Over time, that uncertainty can cause him to pull back, not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't feel safe building. Something on an unstable foundation. But when you are consistent, everything shifts. Your presence becomes calming instead of confusing. Your words carry more weight because they are backed by your actions. He doesn't have to guess where he stands with you because your behavior makes it clear. And that clarity is powerful. It allows him to relax into the connection instead of constantly trying to figure it out. At the same time, loyalty and consistency are not one-sided. A man who is testing these qualities in you is also aware, at least on some level, that he has to meet those same standards. Because when you embody loyalty and consistency, you naturally raise the bar. You create an environment where anything less becomes obvious. And a man who truly values you will recognize that he needs to align with that energy if he wants to keep you. This is where many people get it wrong. They think loyalty means staying no matter what. They think consistency means tolerating behavior that doesn't feel right just to avoid conflict. But real loyalty includes being loyal to yourself first. It means not betraying your own values just to maintain a connection. And real consistency includes maintaining your standards, not lowering them over time. When you are loyal to your values, you don't compromise your integrity for attention. You don't entertain situations that go against what you believe in. And when you are consistent in that loyalty, it becomes part of your identity. It's not something you turn on and off depending on the situation. It's who you are. A man who is paying attention will see that. He will recognize that you are not easily swayed, not easily distracted, not easily pulled in different directions. And that kind of stability is rare. It stands out in a world where many people operate on impulse and inconsistency. There is also a deeper level to this. Loyalty and consistency create emotional safety. When a man feels that he can trust you, that he can rely on your presence, that he doesn't have to question your intentions, it allows him to open up in ways he might not otherwise. It allows the connection to grow beyond the surface. But that kind of trust takes time, and it is built through repeated proof, not just words. So when a man tests your loyalty and consistency, he is not just looking at what you do once. He is looking at what you do over time. He is observing whether your actions match your words, not just today, but tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Because he understands that real connection is not built in a moment, it is built in patterns. And when you show up with consistency, when you act with loyalty, when your words and actions are aligned, you create something powerful. You create a sense of trust